Hi everyone, this is Susie. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my vegan story. And I think it started when I was 2 years old. I lived in Mexico at the time. I was born in Mexico, and my neighbors at that time were butchers. So because my family was not wealthy at all, they would always save me a piece of meat. So whenever, the dad would come over and say, "Tell little Susie that I have her piece of meat so she can come and eat," because they thought that was good for me. So I would run over and have my piece of meat every day, until one day my mom told me that when I was at that time, that somehow I ended up knowing where that meat was coming from. I don't know if I saw a dead animal or something happened where I knew where that meat was coming from, and that I refused to eat meat again. She said, "You wouldn't want to eat meat again, and we couldn't make you eat meat anymore." Unfortunately, that did not continue. So after that, I moved here to the States, and I started eating meat again. I guess maybe they forced me, or I don't know what happened. So somehow I started eating meat again. And my whole life I always had health problems. Even as a child, I was always constipated, always had so many issues. And when I was in my 20s, I started to have this stomach pain that I was getting every single day around noon, and it was unbearable. Like, I would come from home from work at the time, and I would just be like bent over, like I would like almost crawl to my bed and just like lay down for the rest of the afternoon. I would have to take like Tums or just different things to keep my stomach from hurting so much, and I didn't understand what was going on. By grace, I ran into this book. One of my aunts had this book called, it's called in Spanish, Medicina Natural al Alcance de Todos, which is natural medicine at everyone's reach, something like that. So I read that book, and after reading that book, this doctor, I think he was a doctor, he was healed by another person. He had like a tumor, he had like a deadly disease. And he was healed from it, and he started healing other people as well with this natural diet. And he talked about, what really meat was and things like that. And at that time, I stopped eating meat. And he also recommended, in his diet, he recommended like a mostly raw, pretty much a vegan diet. At that time, because I didn't feel like I was deadly ill, I thought it was a little bit too extreme, so I just took red meat out and chicken, and miraculously, my stomach ache went away. I didn't have to take medicine or anything. Like, I stopped eating red meat and chicken, and like my pain just disappeared, and I was like amazed. So I did change my diet at that time quite drastically. At least at that time it was quite drastic for me. But I still continue to eat, cheese and milk and all these other things and eggs, because like I said, I thought, well, maybe that's a little bit too extreme. And because he never touched on the ethical part of the animals, I guess that I never made that connection. So I did have, around that time, I had a coworker who was vegan, and she's still vegan. And I always thought that that was the only vegan I ever met. And she was like the sweetest, she still is the sweetest, kindest person in the whole universe. And she was a dietary vegan and an ethical vegan. And I always thought that being vegan, ignorantly, I thought it was just for people who loved animals. Like, oh, I guess if you really, really like or love animals, then you don't eat meat, you don't wear them, you don't use them in any way, shape, or form. But because I never saw myself as an animal lover, I didn't hate them, but I never saw, I didn't have any pets. I had like 2 cats when I was a little girl, but that was it, only for a little bit. So I never saw myself as an animal lover. And I just thought, oh, I guess that's just for people who really, really love animals, and I'm not one of them, so I thought I was exempt from the rule. How wrong was I? But anyways, so I might have to pause and come back because I need to read my notes. So even though I did change my diet a little bit and I became a vegetarian at that point, Some of my health issues did disappear. Many of them didn't. I still continued, being constipated and all these things because I didn't remove all the animal products from my diet. So then, after that, years later, I moved from California to Chicago, and I got remarried again because I was married once, and I got remarried again. And he was not a vegetarian or a vegan at all, nor was his family. They're not either. But so little by little, I started eating a little bit of meat here and there. Not too much. Like, I wouldn't cook it. I really wouldn't cook meat. Seafood once in a while, but still, the dairy and eggs, yeah, constantly. So I kind of started going backwards again, even though I knew that it was very harmful to me. So, because after I had stopped eating meat, the one day that I did eat a little bit of meat, I got so sick, it freaked me out. I said, I'm not going to do this again. But then after a while, you start going back a little bit because you're like, oh, okay, well, it didn't make me feel that bad. So, but I never really ate like a big old steak or anything like that because I was never a big meat eater. Chicken, yes, that was hard for me to leave. But because I saw the benefits, I didn't do it anymore. Unfortunately, I was never confronted, or I was never shown the ethical part of it, because I think that if I would have become a vegan, at that point, whenever I did see that information or was, so whenever I saw the information, I think I would have become vegan, but I didn't do it because it was just for me. It was just, and because, I think that because most of us fail ourselves, well, at least I have failed myself, that it's like, well, I'll eat a little bit of this, I'll eat a little bit of that, even if it's not the best for me. But I think that once you know the harm that you're causing to another and how horrible and how that there's no words to describe, what you're participating in, and you're shown that, I don't, I get emotional just thinking about it. Like, I wish somebody would have sat me down and shown me, footage about slaughterhouses and, all these places, because I think that it would have impacted my life like it did when I did see those things. So, that is something that I wish somebody would have sat me down. I tell people, I wish somebody would have sat me down and slapped me if it was necessary for me to sit down and listen and see and watch and observe and be aware of what's really going on that people don't want to show you. So after those few years, somehow I think I started watching the Food Network channel. I think that's how I started. My story's a little long, so I apologize in advance for that, and I thank you for being here with me. So I, started seeing people using the Vitamix and things like that, so I was like, oh, that seems like a good, thing to have. So I went over to Williams-Sonoma. We took a class where they showed us how to use the Vitamix, so we bought the Vitamix. And then I started researching on YouTube videos on how to use Vitamix, and the person that came up was Dan McDonald, Dan the man with the master plan. In case you don't know who he is like a raw vegan, celebrity person, he's well known. And I started watching his videos, and I love Dan. Personally, I love Dan. So I started watching his videos, and what he said made sense, so I started making smoothies, and, and then soon after that, I bought a juicer, so I started juicing, and I started feeling, good, and what he said made sense. So I started to move into a raw vegan diet. So my family was not, well, my husband and his 2 daughters, they were not interested at all, So it was just me doing all this. So that was a little bit, challenging, but still I did it. So I went raw vegan before I really became a vegan. So I went right into raw vegan, and I was like a raw vegan for 6 months, and I lost weight and I felt good, and I did a water fast for 6 days, and that was amazing. Even though it was hard doing it, just the benefits of it, I really liked it. I'm not recommending you do a water fast, okay? But I'm just saying what I did. And then after that, we moved, and at that time it was really hard for me to, do the juices, and I was doing my milks, and I was doing all these things, and, my sprouts and stuff. But because we were in the middle of the move, it was kind of hard for me to continue doing that. And again, because I wasn't doing it for ethical reasons, it was just for personal health reasons. So I started slipping back again, And then one day I started, for some reason, again, by the grace of the universe, I started researching again about, into foods, and, then I got into researching GMOs. So I tried to stop consuming anything that was, GMO, and, buying more organic and doing all these things that I had been doing for a while, but now I was getting a little bit more informed about it, more educated on it, and looking at all these documentaries. And then I would see this video from Gary Yourofsky pop up a lot. So I was like, I wonder what the video is about. Like, I had no idea what it was about. Still, I had no idea about, animal farming and stuff. So then one day, because I was looking into processed foods and how harmful they were for me, I started, researching about, what's in the processed foods, the sugars and the corn syrup and all these things. So this one video pops up and called The Truth About Processed Food. I clicked on it. It changed my life. When I saw a video, like, I cried and cried and cried. I still remember, and I still get, like, really emotional. And I cried and cried and cried. And by this time, I had already started to change my diet. I had started already being like a raw vegan for, I think I was like for 6 months to a year, something like that. And still my husband was still eating meat, and he was, eating his protein because he was going to the gym and all these things. And, he was doing his thing, I was doing my thing. And it didn't bother me, it didn't bother me too much. It was just like, double work sometimes, but that was it. But when I watched this video, I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't cook meat for you anymore. I can't do this. I then watched Gary Yourofsky's video. And then after that, I started to watch Earthlings. I confess I only watched like 12 minutes of it because I felt that if I kept watching that video, I would either commit suicide or be depressed for the rest of my life because I just get so emotional. So I cried for I saw it for 10 minutes and I cried for like 3 weeks straight because it was so, that's how devastating it was to me. And hopefully someday I feel like I need to watch that video, sit myself down and watch it, even if I watch it 5 minutes at a time or 5 minutes a week or something, because I do think that I need to know what's going on, even though it hurts. Because I know that the pain that it causes me is nothing compared to the pain that I could inflict on another. So after watching the 10 minutes that I did of Earthlings, let me see, hold on. So after I watched the video of From Farm to Fridge, it's either From Farm to Fridge or The Truth About Processed Foods, I think it's the same video, it's only named differently. I told my husband, I said, okay, if you want to continue eating meat, that's going to be absolutely fine with me, but you at least need to know where your meat is coming from, what you are causing to another living being by you doing that. So I want you to watch these 2 videos. Eventually he did watch Earthlings. I said, I want you to watch these 2 videos, and then if you want to continue eating meat and using, animal products and things like that, that's going to be on your conscience, not on mine, because at least now you know what you're doing. You're not ignorant anymore. So I told my husband, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the animals. I said, because now I understand that being vegan is not a choice. It's a responsibility. So we can choose to be irresponsible. That's our choice. But it is a choice. I mean, it's the choice, to be irresponsible. But I know that most people, we want to do the right thing, but we were taught to be kind. I was taught to be kind and to be loving and to, think of others and be selfless. But that didn't include the animals. Why didn't it include the animals? Why weren't the animals included in this equation? I don't understand. Well, I do understand now, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, now we have the opportunity to change that. So that was one thing. The other book that really just opened my eyes, and it's a great, great book, is The World Peace Diet. In case you haven't read it or heard it, it's also an audiobook. I recommend it, by Dr. Will Tuttle. And the one thing that I say is that I think that every vegan, or most vegans, have said three things in their life. One, I could never do that. I could never be a vegan. So if you are not a vegan and you've said those words, I could never do that, you have one thing in common with every other vegan in the world. We've all said that. So you have something in common with us right there. The second thing is that it's the best decision, or one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life. And the third, I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I would have known this sooner. So I think those are the three things that every vegan has said, because I've said them. So the one thing that I think is that most vegans, or people that are not vegans, you think, because I thought it, that the things that you are going to lose or give up is so much that you can't imagine yourself without them. And like, now that I've become a vegan, like, I see that the things that I had to give up are laughable compared to the things that I have gained. There's no comparison. Because there's nothing better than having peace of mind, than having peace in your heart, that knowing that you're doing the right thing. There's nothing better than that. No piece of meat can give you that. No cheese. No ice cream can give you that peace, that joy of knowing that you're doing the right thing. So let me take a minute. Okay. So if there are three things that I could share with you, is one, that you get educated. Don't believe me. Go and do the research for yourself. Go see it with your own eyes, and then make the choice. The second thing is that, don't, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I've seen it very often. And I think that sometimes we go from being okay with humans and hurting animals to then loving animals and being critical and mean to humans. So I don't think that then we really have improved much. You know what I'm saying? So I think that something that's very difficult, because it is difficult. It's not easy to be kind to humans that are hurting other beings, that you care for now. So I think that it's also very important, to take deep breaths and know how is the best way for me to influence these people in a positive way, so that I'm not now loving animals and hating people, because then I'm not really doing a service to this world. So that's my little take. And the third thing is that do what you can. Whatever it is that you can do, whatever gifts and talents you do have, that you share those, and that's so that the community enriches itself, with your personal gifts and qualities and talents, and that you share that with others, because we need you. Desperately, we need you. We really, really do. Whatever it is that you have to give, whatever it is that you have to share, whatever richness you have in your heart, in your mind, and your abilities, we need that, to make this world a better place. And the last thing is that I just want to say thank you to all of those people that I probably will never know, but that have changed my life radically in a positive way, that have done all the research, that have brought this information to the masses so that we too can make the right choice, So I thank each and every one of you that are making a difference in this world. So I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.